Welcome in, everybody. I am Kevin Lucas, college basketball writer slash podcaster for Nuts and Bolts Sports. I want to give a huge thank you and shout out to Nuts and Bolts Sports for allowing me this platform. And today, I want to talk about the 2021 NCAA tournament. It is officially back. Of course, we missed out on it last year because of the 2020 NCAA tournament being canceled thanks to coronavirus. And so we're back this year after a 2-year hiatus, and I cannot be any more excited to have it back. So today, I want to talk to you guys about some potential upsets. I want to talk to you guys about some scary games to look out for. I want to give you guys my first 4 preview of the games that will kick off tomorrow on Thursday. And then lastly, I want to give you guys my pick for who will be competing in the national championship game and who I think will win the national championship game. But before we actually get into it, I want to say, if you don't know, as of right now, the tournament will be held in the state of Indiana. Venues will be spread out across Mackey Arena, which is where Purdue plays. You're going to have Assembly Hall, which is where Indiana plays. Farmers Coliseum, where IUPUI competes at. You're going to have Bankers Life Fieldhouse, where the Pacers play. You're going to have Lucas Oil Stadium, where the Colts play. And so it's a whole bunch of different venues, but the NCAA is making it work in the state of Indiana. But getting into my potential upsets, going to the Western region in the first round of 64 teams. 5th seeded Creighton. The Blue Jays out of the Big East are going to be taking on 12th seeded UC Santa Barbara. The Guachos out of the Big West Conference, of course, winning the Big West Conference Tournament Championship against UC Irvine a couple of days ago. And this game is going to be what I think is going to end up ultimately being a bloodbath. I like the Guachos in this matchup. They have one of the most premier guards in the country. He goes by the name of Ja'Cory McLaughlin. He is a stud. And my biggest concern with Creighton is that they don't have enough depth. I feel like that's a big thing for them, and depth can be overrated at times, but when you're Creighton, you need it because you only really play, for Greg McDermott, he only really plays 6 to 7 players max, maybe 8 players some games, but I don't trust their bench. I like their starters between Marcus Zagorowski, Denzel Mahoney, and they got a couple other players like Mitch Bollock, but outside of that, I don't think I trust anybody on Creighton's team to get the job done, and so I'm taking the Guachos of UCSB in that first round in the 12 versus 5 matchup. And if you don't know, we all know, you should know, is a 12 seed always beats a 5th seed in the first round of the tournament every single year. It does not fail. And that's not my only 12 versus 5 upset either in the first round. The next game, staying in the West though, the Bobcats of Ohio, led by head coach Jeff Bowles, will be facing off as the 13th seed, will be facing off against the 4th seeded Virginia Cavaliers. I like Ohio in this game. First and foremost, Virginia has been dealing with a coronavirus pause. They were not allowed to compete in the ACC tournament because of coronavirus. So that means they've had a long break, and that's not a good thing because you want to enter the tournament as hot as possible. So Virginia's going to have a lot of rest. They're not going to have a lot of practices together, and I actually think they're going to be coming to Indiana very late too. So they're not going to have a lot of practices together as a complete team. So I'm liking the Bobcats in this matchup. Jason Preston is a premier guard in the country. He's going to be a high draft pick in the 2021 NBA draft. I'm taking Ohio in this matchup. But moving on though, staying in the West as well. The 7th-seeded Oregon Ducks, led by Dana Altman out of the Pac-12, versus the 10th-seeded VCU Rams, led by Mike Rhodes out of the Atlantic 10. I like VCU in this matchup. VCU is going to have the best player on the court. He goes by the name of Nashawn Bones Highland. If you have not heard of him, please go watch his highlights. He is the truth. He is a bucket getter, and one NBA team is going to be very blessed to have his talents on and a part of their organization. Watch out for VCU. Mike Rhodes is a very underrated coach. Oregon does have a talented squad. I just don't trust them in this matchup against VCU. VCU is a very tough team. But moving on to the East, the Eastern region, another 5 versus 12 game. 12-seeded Georgetown, the Hoyas, who went on a big-time run to win the Big East Tournament Championship last weekend, thanks to Patrick Ewing being an excellent head coach and just getting hot at the right time. We've seen they blew out Creighton in the Big East Championship game. We'll be taking on 5th-seeded Colorado, the Buffaloes, led by head coach Tad Boyle. I like Patrick Ewing and the Hoyas to get the job done in this matchup. I just don't trust. My thing, I don't really trust in Pac-12 teams. I'm going to be honest with you guys. They have not done anything outside of the Pac-12. They may win some Pac-12 games, but when it comes to national teams, the Pac-12 does not make a lot of noise. So give me the Hoyas of Georgetown in that 5 versus 12 matchup. The next one, going to the Southern region, 6-seeded Texas Tech, the Red Raiders of the Big 12, led by Chris Beard, will be taking on 11th-seeded Utah State out of the Mountain West Conference. Give me the Aggies. I like what Craig Smith has done in his tenure at Utah State. He's definitely sooner rather than later going to be a high major head coach sometime in the near future. They have Neemias Queta, who I think is going to be the best player in this game. I like Mac McClung, but Queta is a 7-footer that can score from anywhere on the floor, and I just don't think Texas Tech has the right matchup for that, and so give me the Aggies in this matchup. But let's stay in the South. The 7th-seeded, Florida Gators, led by Mike White, versus 10th-seeded Virginia Tech and Mike Young out of the ACC. The Hokies, I can almost assure, are going to win this game. Why? First and foremost, when you have the better coach, you're always going to have a legit shot at winning the game. But Mike Young is going to coach circles around Mike White. The Gators have had a very up and down season. I do love Trey Mann. They got a couple other players here and there, but they're not going to have enough firepower to keep up with the high-paced, explosive offense that is Virginia Tech. Give me the Hokies in that game. Let's go to the Midwest. And this is probably going to be the most shocking game out of all of them because I don't think a lot of people actually have this upset occurring, but I do think this is going to happen in the Midwest region. 3-seeded West Virginia, the Mountaineers, led by head coach Bob Huggins, who should be a Hall of Famer very soon, by the way, versus 14th-seeded Morehead State out of the Ohio Valley Conference. This is going to be a battle of the ages. I actually watched Morehead State take on Belmont to win the OPC Conference. They have a really good squad. And my thing with West Virginia, the reason I'm picking Morehead State in this game is because I don't trust what West Virginia does. West Virginia is a good team. They have been ranked for a good majority of the season, but I don't trust in their offense. Sean McNeil, he's very inconsistent. He's the best shooter for West Virginia, but he has too many games where he's up and he has too many games where he's down. You have Deuce McBride, who's one of the best guards in the nation. I understand that. But my biggest concern with West Virginia is Derek Culver, because Bob Huggins loves to feed the ball into his post players, and Derek Culver is going to come at you on the block non-stop. But I think and I believe that Morehead State has the right matchups to beat these guys. So give me Morehead State in that game. And so that is my upsets of the NCAA tournament. Now, I want to give you guys my scary games. And when I say scary games, I mean teams that are the higher ranked seed, but I don't think they're going to necessarily lose. I just think they're in for a game in the first round that's going to come all the way down to the last buzzer. Because I look at a couple years ago, in the last NCAA tournament, Auburn, in the first round, they took on New Mexico State out of the WAC, a really good school, the Aggies. They played them to a T, and that was a 1-point win for Auburn. They won by a score of 78-77, and that was the same year that Auburn made the run all the way to the Final Four, ultimately losing to, I believe, Virginia. So that was a hell of a game. And so anything can happen. We all know March Madness is crazy. So getting into the scary games, in the Eastern region, I got the Iowa Hawkeyes against the Grand Canyon Antelopes. This is going to be a fantastic game. Coach Drew and the Lopes are a well-known program. They always have a lot of success. The Lopes probably have one of the best fan bases in the country. I think the Hawkeyes are going to win, but that is not going to be an easy game whatsoever to get out of, because Iowa, their defense is nowhere near where it needs to be for a team that has so many veteran leaders. Grand Canyon is going to give them a game, but I do have the Hawkeyes ultimately pulling this one out. Another game, staying in the East, is 4-seeded Florida State versus 13-seeded UNCG, otherwise known as University of North Carolina, Greensboro. I like Florida State in this matchup, and honestly, I love everything that Florida State does. I'm a big Leonard Hamilton fan. I do think Coach Hamilton should be in the Hall of Fame sooner rather than later. But my thing with Florida State is, as much as I do love Coach Hamilton because he puts out a lot of professional players and his program is always successful, they always have a tendency, especially during this time of the year, to play down to the level of competition, because they have players from Scotty Barnes, who's going to be a lottery pick in this upcoming draft. You're going to have Raekwon Gray, Anthony Polite. It's so many really good, fundamentally sound, lanky, and versatile defensive players on this Florida State squad. But UNCG is really good, and their head coach goes by the name of Wes Miller, who used to be a point guard at the University of North Carolina, and he's another coach that sooner rather than later is going to get a top-tier college head coaching job. Watch out for this game. I do have the Seminoles ultimately winning, but the Spartans of UNCG could definitely make this an interesting game. Another game, staying in the East, is second-seeded Alabama, the Crimson Tide, who won both the SEC regular season title and the SEC Conference Tournament Championship. Congrats to Natos. He's done a phenomenal job. I've been a big fan of his ever since he was at the University at Buffalo. They will be taking on the one and only, the legend, who is finally back in the college basketball ranks, and he's actually back in the NCAA tournament. 15-seeded Iona Gales. Rick Pitino, in his first year, got the Gales to the NCAA tournament. They won the MAC championship against Fairfield, which was a really good game. They were actually entered into the tournament, the conference tournament that is. They were the 9th seed in their conference, and Rick Pitino was able to win 4 games in a row and get Iona into the tournament. And I'm not saying that Iona's going to win this game, but if you're Nate Oates, you better be very careful with this Iona team, because we all know Rick Pitino is a Hall of Famer because he's so technical. He does a great job with game planning, and this could potentially be an upset. I don't think it's going to happen. I think Alabama has too much firepower between John Petty and Jaden Shackelford and a couple other players like Herb Jones. Alabama should win this game, but I would not be surprised whatsoever if the Gales of Iona were able to pull it off. So that is the Eastern region. Now I got 2 more games left, one in the South and one in the Midwest. But let's go to the South first. In the South, 5th-seeded Villanova, the Wildcats, Jay Wright. They have 2 NCAA championships in the past decade. Congrats to them. They've done a really good job with that program. They're going to be taking on 12th-seeded Winthrop. And I know a lot of people out there have Winthrop winning this game, but I like Villanova. And I understand why they have Winthrop winning this game. It's because Villanova doesn't have Conley Gillespie, who's out for the season with the MCL tear, I believe. And I don't think they might have Justin Moore. But either way, though, I still like the talent that they have to get out of the first round. Winthrop is a tough draw. Do not get it twisted. This is going to be a very tough game. Their offense is fluent, and it gets the ball moving. They get it popping. They got shooters. They got the whole 9. But I trust in Jeremiah Robinson Earl. I trust in Jay Wright, and I trust in Jermaine Samuels and Eric Dixon. Villanova should be able to pull this one out, but I do expect it to be a grind for a full 40-plus minutes. So that is that game. And then the last game, and I know a lot of people are very high on this team, but me, myself, I'm just not. And that is 4th ranked in the Midwest, 4th-seeded Oklahoma State, the Cowboys, led by head coach Mike Boynton. Of course, they probably have the best player going into the tournament in Cade Cunningham. They did a wonderful job in the Big 12 tournament, made it all the way to the championship game, where they ultimately lost to the University of Texas, of course, with Shaka Smart. But the Cowboys are trending in a very good direction. They will be taking on 13th-seeded the Liberty Flames, who ended up winning their conference tournament, the ASUN, led by head coach Richie McKay, who, of course, if you don't know, they were actually in the NCAA tournament the last time it took place. Liberty can win this game. Like, Liberty has a realistic shot at winning this game. This could be a upset that I would not be surprised at all if it were to happen. The Flames are really well coached. They do a lot of good things on offense and defense. They're scrappy. They're going to make Cade Cunningham work for every single thing. And my thing with Oklahoma State is they need more production out of their role players. I'm a big Rondell Walker fan. Avery Anderson has emerged as the back end of the season has come around. This team is good. But Liberty is another really good team just as well, man. So watch out for those games that could be upsets. I don't think they will, but the potential to be an upset is definitely there. Now, I want to give you guys my Cinderella pick, and that is the Aztecs of San Diego State, man. Why? If you guys forget, last year, going into the tournament, if it did happen, San Diego State was only going to have 1 loss on their record. Of course, they have Malachi Flynn, Matt Mitchell, Jordan Shackle, led by head coach Brian Dutcher, who's done a wonderful job as a disciple replacing the predecessor of Steve Fisher, of course, who coached the Fab Five at Michigan. This San Diego State team is going to be back, and they're hungrier than ever. Matt Mitchell was named Player of the Year in the Mountain West Conference. He is on a mission. Jordan Shackle is better this year. Trey Pulliam, who backed up Malachi Flynn last season, looks even better as a starting point guard. You bring in Cal State Northwest transfer Terrell Goldman. Shout out to Inglewood. This is a well-balanced and a talented San Diego State team. You got Nate Mensah, who's the anchor for their defense. The big thing with them is they gotta win their first game. They're going to take on Syracuse, which is a tough draw because Syracuse, we all know, is known for that 2-3 zone. It's dangerous. It gets teams off balance. But San Diego State has all the makings to make a run. Watch out for the Aztecs. They are dangerous. Now, the game I'm looking forward to most in the round of 64 is going to be 8-seeded LSU, the Tigers, versus the 9th-seeded St. Bonaventure Bonnies out of the Atlantic 10. They actually won the Atlantic 10 conference tournament against VCU. This is going to be a matchup for the ages because LSU realistically could make it all the way to the Elite 8. I don't have them making it that far because they have so much firepower, but at the same time, they don't play any defense like that. Will Wade does not preach defense, and that's going to be a big downfall for this LSU team. So I would not be surprised if St. Bonaventure was able to get the job done. But Cam Thomas, Trendon Watford, Javonte Smart, LSU has so much firepower that they can throw at you. But defensively, if they want to win games in this tournament, they have to lock down and take pride in trying to stop the other team from scoring. If they don't, they might lose in the first round against St. Bonaventure. I would not be shocked at all if that were to happen. So now, two more things before I get you guys out of here. The first 4 games will start off on Thursday, which is going to be super exciting. The first game, we're going to have 16th-seeded Texas Southern versus 16th-seeded Mount St. Mary's. The winner of this game will go on to play 1 seed, the Michigan Wolverines, who is a very concerning team going into the tournament. You're going to have that game tip off at 5:10 Eastern Time. Then you're going to have 11th-seeded Drake versus 11th-seeded Wichita State. This might be the best game out of all the first 4 games. Drake and Wichita State are 2 really well-rounded teams. Drake has some really good players. I believe they're going to get their best player back, which is going to be interesting. Wichita State is led by first-year head coach Isaac Brown, who's done a wonderful job with that program ever since he took it over after the concerning departure of Greg Marshall. This game could go all the way down to the wire. I think I'm going to pick Drake in this matchup. I just trust Drake a little bit more than Wichita State. So give me Drake. But I would not be surprised if Wichita State was able to pull it out. The next game is Appalachian State versus Norfolk State, the 16 seeds. Whoever wins that game is going to go on to face Gonzaga. And then the last game of the day that I think a lot of people will be tuned into because it has 2 big-time name brands, 2 blue blood schools. My Michigan State Spartans, led by Tom Izzo, will be taking on the Bruins of UCLA of the Pac-12, led by head coach Mick Cronin. This game is super exciting to watch, and I'm actually very happy because going into Selection Sunday, I've been a Michigan State fan my entire life. I've never had to worry about us potentially missing the tournament. This year was different. I thought it was a slight chance that we could miss the tournament, but we got some wins against Ohio State, Illinois, and Michigan recently, and I knew that ascended us to put us into the tournament field. But I do like our draw because if we win this game, we can go on to play BYU, and then we can go on to play Texas, and I could imagine us beating both of those teams. But staying with UCLA, their biggest problem is that they're not able to close out games the way that they would like to. They're not good at finishing games. That is a problem with this Mick Cronin team. Of course, they lost their best player early in the season, which is Chris Smith. They still have some good players like Jules Bernard, Tiger Campbell at the point guard, David Singleton's a shooter, Jaime Jaquez, Jake Kyman, Cody Riley. They're still a very talented team, but I just think Michigan State is going to have the best player and they're going to have the best coach. And when you have both those, you're going to have a much easier chance of winning the game. You're going to have Aaron Henry and Coach Izzo. And we all know when Coach Izzo is underseeded, when he thinks his team is looked at as an underdog, is when he thrives the most. I actually think Coach Izzo loves being called an underdog because that's when he has the most to prove. And now, this Michigan State team, man, could make a run. I could see us making a run. We are built for this. I trust in my team. The key thing for us, though, is we are going to need Rocket Watts to produce at a high level. He is our point guard. He's been playing pretty well as of late. He had 21 plus points against Michigan a couple weeks ago, but we need him to be consistent. We need him to get shots. We need him to see shots go through the net early. That's going to be the key because when he doesn't make shots, our team does not look as good. But when he's on fire and when he's playing good and when he sees the ball go through the rim from his jump shot, we are a much better team. And I love our chances to make a run in this 2021 NCAA tournament. But lastly, before I get you guys out of here, I'm not going to give you guys my picks for the Final Four. I actually saved that, but I do want to give you guys my pick of who will make the national championship game, and that is 2 1 seeds, the Gonzaga Bulldogs and the Illinois Fighting Illini out of the Big Ten. I think this is going to be one of the best matchups of all time in college basketball history, and I'm going to take the Fighting Illini in this game. And look, I know Gonzaga is undefeated. They've had a very successful season, a historic season. Mark Few's done a great job with that team. Jalen Suggs, a lottery pick. Corey Kispert is going to be an NBA player. He's probably the best shooter in the nation right now. Drew Timmy's an undersized big, but he's specially skilled. He got the footwork. You got Andrew Nembhard there as well. Their team is so well-rounded. They have so many different guards that could dribble, attack, and shoot that it's kind of hard to guard them. But if any team can guard Gonzaga, it is Illinois. Ayo Dosunmu, to me, should be the Wooden Award winner of this college basketball season. Trent Frazier is a senior that not only can give you 20 a game, he's also one of the best defensive guards in the nation. Andre Curbelo, same thing, a freshman that's a problem. He grew up in Puerto Rico. He grew up playing around pros since he was a young kid. He is the truth. And then you have Kofi Cockburn. Gonzaga has no answer for Kofi Cockburn. And to be honest, nobody in the nation really has any answers for Kofi Cockburn. And that's why I like the Fighting Illini, led by head coach Brad Underwood, to get the job done, to lead the Big Ten back to the promised land and bring them a national championship back to the Big Ten. And yes, that is my pick, man. But I appreciate you guys. Shout out to Nuts and Bolts Sports. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you guys soon.